What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Real Atheist Experience. This is going to be hopefully one part of many, going over the many atrocious Bible verses. A lot of people, especially the devout, love to gloss over and just talk about the peace and love in the Bible, when in fact there is much evil to be pointed at. Now, to kick off this, what I hope to be a continuing series, we are going to go over Book of Numbers, chapter 31, verses 17 through 18, which in my opinion is probably, if there was like a top 3, top 5 of the worst Bible verses, this would definitely have to be up there. And it reads, "Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. But all the women children, all the little girls, in other words, that have not known a man by lying with him, keep them alive for yourselves." Now, it doesn't take too much commentary to see why this is one of the most horrible Bible verses, period. It's a Jeff Epstein-like Bible quote, and I point that out many a time. What are grown men soldiers filled with testosterone, who have just slayed thousands, going to do with little virgin girls? Yeah, so there you go. We are going to go over it, and if you are a Christian, there are people that actually try to defend that. There are apologetics. I will go over one particular gentleman. Let's see here. Now, where is he? Okay, here we go. This gentleman here is his YouTube channel is PFander Films. He's got about 60,000 subscribers. He attempts to defend this, so it's always interesting to me, whenever there's something tough, and this doesn't just apply to Bible nonsense, it applies to many other areas. When there's something uncomfortable, do research in it, get to the bottom of it. Don't just bury your head in the sand and wish it not be there. You gotta face the issue straight up. So this guy, as silly as his rebuttal is, I'll give him credit for attempting it. So let's hear what he has to say.
One of the ones that comes up, a very difficult one to understand, is in Numbers chapter 31. Let me just read it. Numbers 31. Moses was very angry with the officers of the army. This is verse 14. And he then says in verse 15, "Have you allowed all the women to live?" They were supposed to kill all the men, but the women were still living, he says. In verse 16, "They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and were the means of turning the Israelites away from the Lord in what happened at Peor, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. Now kill all the boys and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourself every girl who has not ever slept with a man." What it's suggesting is all the men who are guilty and all the boys who will be made guilty but are to be killed, and all the women who have slept with men, but do save the women who haven't. So you can see why people are bringing this up. You can see why this...
It's not women, bro. It's little girls. These Bible translations calling these women, they're women, but they're little girls. It's nonsense. Call it what it is, man. So we see the nonsense already. Let's go on.
This is a problem, and why people go back to Numbers chapter 31 and confront it. It needs to be confronted. So how can you answer a situation like that? Because it seems like the God of the Old Testament is very much involved in eradicating those who were guilty, but somehow saving the virgins for the men. I remember this was brought up at Speaker's Corner about 2 years ago, and we had to answer it at that time. And the way to answer that is to go to Numbers chapter 25. You need to go to 6 chapters earlier to see what the situation is. And
now, he's going back a few chapters in the Bible to try to lay down some context. I have no problem with doing that. You always have to have the proper context regarding anything you're covering. So by him doing this, I have no objection. So as long as he provides a good argument for his position, which we will determine here shortly.
You look at that six chapters earlier in Numbers 25, you will see that the Israelites were staying in Shittim, and the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with the Moabite women. So the Moabites are also the same as the Midianites. They're interchangeable. You can use either name for both of those peoples. They invited them to sacrifices to their gods, and the people ate and bowed down before these gods. So Israel joined in worshiping the Baal of Peor, and the Lord's anger burned against them. So you can see these people had seduced the Israelites. The women were the ones who had been used to do that, and as a seduction, they started turning away from God and turning towards the Moabites and the Midianites' god. Baal is the name of that god. So here in chapter 31, they were to go and eradicate the Midianites and the Moabites for what they had done to their men. Now, how many are we talking about here? When you look at...
So, in a similar fashion to what we see in the Bible constantly, when some shit hits the fan, let's blame the women. So in this case, it's the women seducing these folks. What's the solution to it? Let's just commit genocide on these peoples. This is why it's so ridiculous. You can't defend the indefensible. We saw in the Old Testament, and I'll cover maybe as part of the series, but we also saw when God was able to harden the heart of the Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? So he's able to harden people's hearts. He's able to have all this power. He's omnipotent, all powerful. But in this particular situation, the only way to solve this problem is to commit genocide. Get the fuck out of here.
Numbers 25, verse 9, and you look and see how many of these men were actually implicated, how many of them had actually been seduced. We're talking about 24,000.
Genocide.
That's an awful lot of men, and you can see then why God was angered and why God demanded that they be
I can also call it genocide.
Eradicated to stop this plague, to eradicate this plague.
So we can commit genocide against these peoples. Just playing with words. Just say it what it is.
Oh, 24,000 had to be killed. Why? Because verse 2 to 3 said, because they were seduced to Baal of Peor. And in being seduced to them and worshiping their gods, they were also sacrificing children.
So again, God being all powerful, the creator of the universe, as you proclaim, a being for which nothing is impossible. The only way around it is for genocide. I'm gonna keep repeating it because it needs to sink in. You still defend this shit. I do have a problem with it.
And then God would only allow his anger against them once they had been eradicated, these men who were guilty. So what about the men? Well, not just the men. He was also said to eradicate the women and the young boys, but to leave the virgins alone. And the reason for that is not because of any sexual need of the men.
Yeah, not at all. As I stated at the very beginning, an army full of testosterone-filled men after a victory, capturing young virgin girls. Yeah, no, nothing sexual behind it, man. What is the evidence for this? Because throughout history, we see what invading forces do to the indigenous and native populations time and again. So, what evidence do you have to back up this claim that there was nothing sexual in nature regarding this? I'll wait for it. I'm all ears.
It was because the virgins had not participated in this seduction. The virgins, by virtue of being virgins, were not guilty. And that's why God was saying, you're to leave them alone. And that's why...
Okay, then by that logic, the young boys didn't seduce anyone either. So why were they put to death? Let's see if we get an answer to that.
Moses was saying it, he was just taking what God had told him. And you can see then, this, once you look at the context, once you look at Numbers chapter 25, once you go back to what has happened earlier, you will then understand what's going on in Numbers 31.
Yeah. Bunch of word salad, brother.
In almost every case, you will see that God has a reason for this type of violence. And this violence is not something like we had said earlier in the first talk that we did earlier on the 1 Samuel chapter 15 and Joshua chapter 6. God was not using this violence against everyone. It was only against those who had confronted, seduced, and brought.
Oh, sweet, man. Selective genocide. How awesome is that?
The children of Israel away from God. Violence is there, but it's only for those people, for that time, and for that problem.
Genocide justified by, I'm assuming, someone who considers himself some kind of a Bible scholar. Yeah, it's pathetic, and I think you can see him squirming around as he's trying this defense out, feeling good about himself. I don't think he fully believes in his explanation. He just made a YouTube video and attempted it, but I don't even think he buys this bullshit himself.
Very specific, not universal. I hope that helps, because it helps me when I realize that.
It didn't help at all, bro. It actually brought in more questions. And if you are a Bible believer, you believe in this stuff, these are things you got to confront and provide adequate responses to. If you're watching this video, leave a comment. Let's have this debate. If you want to call in, and we will discuss it ad nauseum.
And when I read that, to see that God is not talking about violence for everyone, everywhere, at every time, like you see in the Quran, chapter 8, verse 39. Slay the unbelievers until there is no more fitna, there is no more unbelief.
So here, he's now resorting to passing the buck. His answers, and he even knew his answers were inadequate. So, well, Islam is worse. Choose the lesser of two evils. In other words, this is exactly what he's doing. He's deflecting.
In the land, chapter 47, verse 4. Cut off the heads of the unbelievers in the very first three verses of that chapter.
Oh, look at it. Look at him. Slay those Quranic verses. You know what? Let me try one of my own. Bam. Luke 19:27. But those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. That is Jesus in the New Testament. So don't tell me that this horrible shit is only found in the Old Testament. So I hope to continue this messed up Bible verses and quotes. We'll break them down, dissect them. We'll even play some apologetics, because if they have good arguments to defend what I would deem indefensible, I want to hear them. And if they are lousy arguments, I want to dissect them and destroy them. So if you like this content, just starting this channel out, help me grow it by smashing that subscribe button. And you don't have to like my style. You don't have to even be an atheist. I embrace everyone. If you just want to talk smack in the comment, let's do this. Because I ain't going to censor or cancel anyone. Everyone is free. I'm anti-woke. And so I'm all about freedom of speech. 100%. No matter how ridiculous, no matter how hateful filled, no matter what it is, I will always defend your right to say it. I truly believe in that. So if you like this content, smash that subscribe button. Look forward to seeing this channel grow and make this a growing community. All right, y'all. Peace.